This is Gemara in Sotah, Daf Vav, Baruch Hashem. We're trying to get these shiurim up before Yantif so everyone could adequately prepare. And we pick it up on the bottom of Hey Amid Beis. We're about 13 lines from the bottom. The first word on the line is Ve'im Meis Chayletzes. The Mishnah taught us that what happens if we have a case of a kinoi. There was a warning to a woman that potentially she was a Sotah, and then before she had a chance to drink the Sotah to prove either her innocence or the lack thereof, her husband dies. So what is the halacha? General, if a husband dies without children, a woman falls liyibam to the husband's brother. But in this scenario, because she was a suspected Sotah, what is the halacha? The halacha is chayletzes v'loi misyabemes. The brother has to chalitza to absolve her of any form of connection and not yibum. Asks the Gemara why? Amai, what is the reason that you cannot do, that you have to do chalitza? Tityabeim nami yavumi. Why don't we allow them to do yibum? Amar Rav Yosef Amar Kra, says the Torah, v'yatza mi beisay v'aychal aysa le'ishacher. Then what is the story with the Sotah? The Sotah has to leave this man and go marry an ish acher, another man. Explains the Gemara, ish acher v'lo liyavam. But she cannot marry the husband's brother. He's not an ish acher, and therefore she cannot marry him. Amrei Abaye asks Abaye to Rav Yosef Elameata, Chalitza nami lo tibai. If you have a limud from the pasuk that you go marry ish acher, so that means there's no connection with the yavam, with the brother. So why do you even need chalitza? Amar Lei responds Rav Yosef, Ilu isei labal milo bayi get. If the husband didn't die, what would be the prerequisite before this woman goes to marry someone else? In the event that she's not drinking the Sotah, the husband has to divorce her. In a scenario, let's just say that case, the husband would have to divorce her. Exactly at which stage this is relevant, whether there is a confirmed tumah or not, but the husband would have to divorce her. So says Rav Yosef, Hashtenami tibai chalitza. Just like the husband would have to divorce her, so too now that the husband's not there, the brother has to do chalitza. Way number one of explaining the Mishnah. Ve'is di Amri, a second way of learning is an Ika di Amri, Amr Rav Yosef, comes along Rav Yosef to explain what is the reason there is chalitza to the husband's brother if the husband dies before the wife is proven innocent or not. Rachmana Amar, says Rav Yosef, the Torah says, she leaves his house and he goes to another man. What is the reason? Explains Rav Yosef in this drasha. The husband divorces her. Why? So that his house should not be destroyed. As we have seen, that having a woman who's acting unfaithfully, that potentially is being saiser, is being over and yichud with another man, could destroy the household. So the husband has to divorce her. So says Rav Yosef, you know why you don't do yibum? Because there's an obligation to divorce this woman. And you're saying the brother should have to yibum? Why do we require that of the brother? Just like the husband wants to get rid of this woman, so too the brother. But now on this, so now it's a slight of a different nuance. Again, in the first Lashain, what was the reason? Because that's La'ish Acher. Lish Acher v'lo liyavam. Now it's a different reason. It's that the whole reason to divorce this woman is she's being unfaithful at some level. So too, the husband doesn't have to do Yibam. Amr Le Abayi said, now in this Lashain, Abayi says to Rav Yosef Alameata, La'acher loy tinase. She should not be allowed to marry anyone else. Wait, if we're saying this woman is unfaithful, if we're saying that her lack of tznius is going to cause a stira lebese, she shouldn't even be allowed to marry another man even after they give a get. So Amar Lei, so Rav Yosef responds as we turn over to Vav Amar Alei. Raminin la alei bal karche. Are we forcing him to marry her against his will? Meaning, to go and force a yibum. Yibum is a case which you have to do. So we don't force a yibum because maybe this woman is indeed unfaithful. But if another man on his own volition wants to marry this woman, knowing full and well what her story is, that she was a suspected Sotah that got divorced, and now another man says, I believe her and I want to marry her, that is not going to be a problem. So a second way of learning the reason why you need chalitza and not yibum in the Mishnah. Vikati Amri, in the top of Vav and Aleph, a third way, Amar Rav Yosef, Hakasav Karoi Acher. The Torah calls Acher, meaning you have to get divorced, V'hol Chavais Alish Acher. Says the Torah, you have to go Lish Acher. Why? Shein ben Zugai shall Rishon. What does it mean? Acher, it means that it has nothing to do with the first one. It's at a lower level. It's not a ben zugai of the first one. Why? Similar to the second lashon, this woman is a suspected adulteress, and the second husband has no problem. So husband A is getting rid of this woman. Husband B says, I don't have a problem. That's what we're calling him acher, labeling him slightly lower. Of course, it could be that there was nothing wrong, but at some level, of course, there was a suspicion. And now says the Gemara 5 lines down, Vav Amar Aleph, and you're going to say that you have to do Yibum, and if you look at Rashi in the first Y line, it's similar to this last Lashon, that we're labeling the person that wants to marry this woman an Acher, and you're saying that you have to go and potentially do Yibum, which would be a form of a Bal Karche, a form of a marriage against his will. That's a third way of learning why Rav Yosef says if do Chalitza and not Yibum. On this, Amar Le Abaya, Elamayatan, he says, Lacher, Ameis Blaibanim, Lo Titiabeim. Says Abaya, wait, if the whole reason why you don't do Yibum is because this woman is labeled inferior, this husband is labeled inferior, so if the second husband is Nifter, she should also not do Yibum now. Why? Because of Kari Acher, Gabe Dahai, because the Torah, Ta'akas of Kari Acher, because the Torah labels him as an Acher, and if he's an Acher, what should the halacha be? The halacha should be that it's not going to be Yibum if he's Nifter. Answers the Gemara, Gabe Dahai, Miya B'Shem Toiv Ave Kaima. Says the Gemara, no. With regard to the second husband, there's nothing wrong. For the new form of Yibum would not be a problem. So 3 different ways as to why, if a husband dies while his wife is a suspected Sotah before she gets a chance to either prove she was innocent or not, there is Yibum, but there is no Chalitza. Rava Amar, says Rava, a 4th way of learning. So the first 3 were in 3 different ways. There were 3 different ways of learning Rav Yosef, who learned it from Leish Acher. Rava comes along and says, no, I'll tell you why. Kal v'chaymer. We have a good old fashioned kal v'chaymer. In Nesra b'mutter law, ba'asr law l'kol shekin. If this woman, due to the suspicions of Sotah, she's asr to whom? B'mutter law. To the person that's been mutter to her till now, to her husband. Ba'asr law. To a husband's brother, in which of course was always forbidden due to the Isser Eishes Ach. L'kol shekin. She should certainly remain forbidden. So Amar Le Abaye, says Abaye, 1 second. 10 lines down, first one line is Amar Le. You, Rava, are learning that the reason that she cannot do Yibum is a Kal v'chaymer. Asks Abaye Elamayata if what you're saying is true. And this hopefully is a little bit familiar. We learned this in Yavamis. Kohen Gadol shekidish is almana. Kohen Gadol that marries an almana, which of course is forbidden, as a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry a widow and almana. Umeis, and then the Kohen Gadol dies. V'yeshlei ach Kohen edit, and the Kohen Gadol has a brother who's a Kohen, of course, as he was a Kohen, but he's a Kohen edit. What is the status of the brother doing Yibum? Says Abayi, based on you, Rava, your svara, your kal v'chaymer, the brother should not have Yibum. Why not? Because what was you Rava's kal v'chaymer? Im nesra b'mutar la, ba'asr la like kal shekein. So it should be the same thing over here, that the almana becomes asr to the husband. So certainly it should be asr to the brother. Im Nesra bin Mutter, she's usher to the one she originally was mutter to her husband, Ba'asr to the Kohen like Kol Shekin. Says the Gemara, 1 second, what you're saying makes no sense. Nesra, what do you mean it became Asr? This whole marriage of the Kohen Gadol to the Almana was Asr to start with. What do you mean came Asr? It was always forbidden. Asira v'kaima. It was always forbidden. And second of all, Mutter law. Asr lahu. And second of all, says the Gemara, are you saying that the Almana is becoming Asr to someone who is Mutter? What do you mean? She was always Asr. So the whole Kal V'chomer statement in this case makes no sense. Number one, the whole marriage was Be'isr. And number two, you're calling it that was Mutter, became Asr, it was Asr. Two prongs really of the same kasha. So rather, says Abaye, okay, you don't like the question I just asked from Kohen Gadol Almana to Rava. Rava's Kal V'chomer. Says Abaye, let me ask you a different question. We have the wife of a Kohen who was violated, someone raped her, someone forced her to have relationships, and therefore she's now usher to the Kohen. Umeis, and the Kohen dies. And the Kohen has a brother who has a psul kuna, he's a chalal. Loitis yabim. There should be no yibam. Even though a chalal could marry a oinis, one who was ma'anis, there should be no yibam. Why not? Because in Nasra b'mutar la, then ba'asr la l'kal shekain. Answers the Gemara, you got it all wrong. Oines b'Yisrael mishra shari. V'kabidahai leka isura. Says the Gemara, Oines is mutter to Yisrael, to a non-kohen. And therefore, to this brother who's a chol, there's no iser. So what do you mean that there's going to be any problem? There's no problem at all. The brother chalal is allowed to marry this woman, and therefore Rava's Kal V'chomer stands the test of time. And we continue with the Mishnah. A third of the way down, Vav Amid Aleph, says the Mishnah. We learned previously that when we have a Sotah, she's not allowed to eat truma of her husband. Says the Mishnah, Ve'elu Asurois, and these women are forbidden melechol b'truma. Number one, Hoimeres Tamei Adilach. If she says she is Tamei, she says that she was mizaneh. Number two, V'shva Edim she Tameya. Edim said she was mizaneh. And number three, V'aimeres Eini Shaisa. Or she says, I don't want to drink the mei site to the waters of the site, so she's forbidden from eating truma. Or number four, if the husband does not want to let her drink the mei saita, there's something that we're going to discuss later in the Masechta, then as well, she is not allowed to eat truma from that moment. And number five, another halacha that we're going to see later in the Masechta, if the husband on the road, on the way of her going to drink the mei saita, the husband sleeps with her, and the halacha is there's no saita in a scenario that there was relations between the husband and his suspected wife in the interim. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Amram, says Rav Amram, Ha Milsa Amrlan Rav Sheshes. The following statement, teaching, learned to Rav Sheshes, V'naharan Einin Mimasnisa, and he brought a raya to this, he enlightened their eyes from our Mishnah. What was the statement? Saita Sheshla Edim Imdina Sayam. If we have a suspected saita that there are edim b'medinas hayam, says the Gemara, what is the status of such a saita? Ein hamayim boitkenaisai. Rav Sheshes learns that if we have a saita that we suspect that there was not suspect, excuse me. Well, yeah, I guess it's a suspicion because we don't really know. If we have a saita that they claim there are edim b'medinas hayam, Ein hamayim bait kenaisai, the mei saita are not going to work. My taima, what's the reason that the mei saita will not work in such a scenario? They will not literally check her. Damakrav inistra, v'hinit tama, and she was secluded and she is tamei. Ve'ed ein ba, and there are no edim, which we've learned extensively, means there are not two edim, but there is one. Teleka diyadeba. So we darshan now, says Rav Sheshes, that there's no one that knows about it. La'afuke, which comes to exclude, that this case there are those who know about it, the edim, which are where, which are overseas. So says Rav Sheshes, any scenario in which there are edim overseas, the halacha is that the mei saita doesn't work. And now Rav Sheshes proves his din man harlan einin masnis, and he literally nahar einlan. He enlightened their eyes. He proved this from our Mishnah, the Katani, v'shubala edim shi tamei. Says the Mishnah that if edim came that she is tamei, what's the halacha? She cannot eat truma. So explains Rav Sheshes, what was the case of the Mishnah? When did the Eidim come? If you're going to tell me that the Eidim came before she drank the Sotah, so what's the Chiddush? Zainahi. Of course she can't eat truma. She's a good old-fashioned Zaina. The Eidim proved it. Basar dishasai. Must be the Eidim came after she drank, but she didn't die yet. So Amr Bishlam, if you're going to tell me that the water doesn't check her, Shapir, then the case makes a lot of sense. The Eidim came afterwards that she can't eat the truma because of her Eidim, even though she did not die. Excuse me. Let me say that again. If you're going to tell me that the waters don't check her, why don't the waters check her? Because they're Eidim. So the fact that she didn't die doesn't prove anything. Why doesn't it prove anything? Because maybe she didn't die because they're Eidim. But indeed, she did do the deed. So when those Eidim come, then she can't eat the Truma. But if you're going to tell me no, even when they're Eidim overseas, the water still works, then Tiglai Milsala Mafreya, Disadi Shakrinenu. So now, what's going to happen? We should find out that the Eidim were false. What happens? Eidim come in and testify that she was Mizana. She drinks the Meisait and she doesn't die. Or I should say, she drinks the Meisait and doesn't die. Or maybe, that has to be the case. We're talking about a case, L'Basar Dishasai. No, I said it wrong. Excuse me. The case is after she drinks. She drank the water and she's alive. So why is she alive? So if the reason is that there are Eidim overseas, and that says Rav Sheshes, the water doesn't work when there are Eidim. So the fact that she didn't die doesn't prove anything. But now, and therefore the Mishnah could say that when the Eidim come, she doesn't eat Truma. However, if you're going to tell me that the water does work when she's overseas, so then these Eidim are false. So what is the reason why she cannot eat Truma? So Amar Lei Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef responds to Rav Sheshes and he argues. So we have a brewing machlokes. Rav Sheshes says the waters don't work if the Eidim are overseas. And Rav Yosef says the water does work if the Eidim are overseas. How are we going to explain the Mishnah according to Rav Yosef? Says Rav Yosef, there's another reason why she might not die, and therefore after she drinks, it could be that the Eidim come in, and what? She'll still be not allowed to eat Truma. You know why? Because she has chosim. And even though when you drink the Meisait, you're supposed to blow up, but if you have chosim, you're not going to blow up. So that's how Rav Yosef disagrees with Rav Sheshes. So says the Gemara, what is at the impetus, what is at the crux of this machlokes Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes? You know what the machlokes is? B'misnavna de Rebbe, with regard to the halacha of that she withers away. The Tanah we learned in the Mishnah Rebbe Omer. 5 lines from the Y lines. Chos Taila b'mayim amarim. Says the Rebbe, if she has a chos, then what happens? The mayim amarim, the bitter waters, don't let her blow up. But she doesn't give birth, and she does not thrive, she's not mishubach. She withers away and goes for a while, and the saif, she mesa vaisa misa, and then eventually she will blow up like the requisite death of the Sotah. That is what Rebbe says. So Rav Sheshes savar bein the Rebbe bein the Rabbanan. Whether it's Rebbe or the Rabbanan, what is the machlokes Rebbe and the Rabbanan? Says Rav Sheshes, havai b'misnavva. Everyone agrees that what? Everyone agrees that she withers away. And the Mishnah is going to be discussing where she does not wither away after she drinks from the Meisait. And therefore, it has nothing to do with the schusim that she has. Therefore, Rav Sheshes says a raya from our Mishnah, the fact she does not die, must be a proof that if there are Eidim overseas, the waters don't work. Rav Yosef Savar, no, Eidim overseas, the waters still do work. But Rebbe have a misanva. This whole din that she withers away if she has chosim is a din according to Rebbe. But Rabbanan lo misanva. According to Rabbanan, it's not true. So the Mishnah could be like the Rabbanan, but we don't necessarily have a raya that if they're eating overseas, that the waters will or will not work. So that's going to be the machlokes Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes. Whether the machlokes Rebbe and the Rabbanan is whether the waters work if she has chosim, or whether she just will wait and wither away. So Masiv Rav Simi Barashi asks a question on Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes just taught us that everyone holds that she's going to wither away. Therefore, the Mishnah, if she didn't wither away, is a raya that the water doesn't work when they're Edom overseas. So asks Rav Simi Barashi, Rav Shimon, says Rav Shimon, this is later on in the Mishnah, in Chav Dalid, when Rebbe says this din, that if she has chosim, she will not die. Rav Shimon argued, and Rav Shimon says, it's not going to hold back. Why not? Because says Rav Shimon, if it's true that if she has chosim, she will not die. Hashaisa, you're being madcha, you're pushing away the water from all women. You're undermining the whole purpose of the woman drinking. And you're being mighty shemra anytime a woman does not die. We thought till now, you know why she didn't die? Because she didn't commit znos. But maybe she just has those chos. Sheshasu, ve'einaim rice. And people are going to say to me, so you really, those women, they didn't die? They're really tummy. But this chos is that which helped them. But now ask Rav Simi Barashi on Rav Sheshes, if you are correct, Vim Isa, and if what you're saying, you Rav Sheshes is true. Rav Shimon should have another issue. That if, whenever there are Edom overseas, the waters don't work, that as well will call into question whether the waters work. Because people are going to say, you know why she didn't die? Because the Edom overseas, you realize she's Tameh. Answers the Rav Gemara, Rav Shimon Kamer. What's your question? You're asking Rav Sheshes according to Rav Shimon. The Rav Shimon, but does Chos Latalia Edim Nami Latalia? According to Rav Shimon himself, it's not a question because he all just like having a Chos won't help, so to having Edim will not help. Meaning Rav Shimon will hold like Rav Yosef, but that's not a kasha on Rav Sheshes. So continues the Gemara in the last line of Vav Amid Aleph. Masiv Rav. Rav comes along and again has a kasha in Rav Sheshes. And the following cases says the Mishnah, their carbon mincha has to be burnt. This is the carbon mincha of the Sotah. Says the Mishnah, the following cases, the carbon became pasul, and therefore we have to burn the carbon. So elu minchasain are nisrafais. Ha'imeres vavam and beis. Ha'imeres tameani. She says I'm tamei. Or v'shabala edim she tamei. Edim came. Also so now says the Gemara, similar to the raya we prove from our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, also edim emas. When did these edim come? If the edim came before the flour was kadosh, was sanctified in the kli shares, in the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, then tebek lechulin. So why are you saying that this carbon has to be burned? Let it go lechulin. Let it just go and be no longer any issue because it hasn't gone into the kli shares yet. El lebasar de kadosh. Must be that this carbon has to be burnt. Why? Because it already was kadosh. So if you're going to tell me that the waters are bait kinaisa, that the waters work in what case? Even in a case where they're Edom overseas, like you, Rav Sheshes, argued on Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef, let's remind ourselves, learned that if the Edom overseas, then what? Then the Sotah don't work. Rav Sheshes disagreed. So if you, Rav Sheshes, is correct, Alma Bas Mikdashu Mikarevi. So we see this person is possibly able to bring the carbon. And if they made this flour holy in the Kli Sharis originally, then it's good. And then I understand, according to Rav Sheshes, let's say correctly, according to Rav Yosef, that the mayim is baidik when they're Edom overseas. It makes sense that when you put this flour in the Kli Shares, it was fit for the carbon, so then now you would have to burn it. Ella explains the Gemara, the Kasha and Rav Sheshes. But according to you, Rav Sheshes, that we started this whole Gemara, 8 lines down, Vavam and base, that you Rav Sheshes hold that when they're Eidim overseas, so then, then eventually we're going to find out when they originally put this flour into this vessel, it was a mistake. So if it was a mistake, why do we have to burn it now, which we allowed to go lechulin? So must be Rav Sheshes, you are incorrect. Amar Rav Yehuda made this karta. You know what the case is? The case is that the woman was mizaneh in the azara of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore the chikadash meikara shaper kadosh. Really, originally the kedusha, the fact that the flour was put into the shares was really good. And even if we say that having edim overseas, generally the mayim is not boidik. But this case is different because at the time that they set aside the carbon, everything was really good and dandy. And only afterwards she was mizan, and that's why it's not going to work, and that's why we have to burn the carbon mincha. Maskler or misharshia. 1 second, how could it be that she was mizan in the Beis Hamikdash? But the Birchei Kahuna, the young Kohanim, would escort her on the way to drink. So how could it be that she was mizaneh after they set aside the carbon mincha? Says the Gemara, she was mizaneh with them. Because she was mizaneh with them, that's what invalidated the carbon. That's why you had to burn this carbon mincha, but it had nothing to do with whether they're edim overseas or not. Answer number 1. Answer number 2, how could it be that she was mizaneh of Yashi Amrikon Shenitzachal Nekveha? She had to use the bathroom as she was walking to go drink the Mei Sotah, and when she went off the side of the road, she was mizaneh. Are they hanging from her head covering? Meaning they let her use the bathroom. When she goes to use the bathroom, unfortunately she was mizaneh. Rav Papa Amar, says Rav Papa, a different way of explaining Rav Sheshes, who says that even when they're eating overseas, the water still works. Lo'ilam kedamrin meikara. And you're asking that what? So if the water works even when they're eating overseas, tebik lechulin. Really, the carbon that was set aside in the klisharis should now go lechulin because there's no issue with it. Answers Rabbah, but you're right on a daraisa level. But midrabanan, it's a gezerah. They made a gezerah to Rabbanan to burn this carbon mincha. Why? Because people don't know what's going on. Maybe people are going to say, people are going to think that they're taking something from klisharis and they're making it non-holy, and in order to prevent what people are thinking, that is the reason why they had to burn the carbon mincha, even though it has nothing to do with whether there is believability when they're edim overseas. Masif Rav Mari, and one last shaila for the day. Rav Mari asks on Rav Papa. Rav Papa just said a new yisoid that really the carbon minchas kadosh, and there's no issue with it, and really it could be yotzil lechulin right now. What's the reason you burn it midrabanan? If that's true, Masav Ramari, about 20 lines from the bottom, the first one line is nitmeis. Nitmeis minchasach lekidsha bekli. If the mincha became tamei before it was kaddish bekli, havehi kechola minchais. It's like all the carbon minchais v'tifta, and you can redeem it. Once the carbon is kaddish and the kli is put into kli shares, hare kolam minchais, and now v'tisra has to be burnt because it's already put into kli shares. Kodash ha-kaimetz, continues the brisa. If the kaimetz is the 3 fingers worth of the flour, was kaddish, it was put into kli shares, and the Beis Hamikdash lo yispek lakiv ad shemisu, and they didn't get a chance to bring it on the mizbeach till either the husband or wife died, or yad shemesi till she dies. Hari kolam mincha is like a regular mincha v'tisra if it has to be burnt. Karava kaimitz. Let's say case number 3 says the brayse they already brought to the kaimitz the kemitza of the mincha v'leispik lachol shirayim, but they didn't yet get to eat the leftovers ad shemesu till the husband dies, ad shemesi till the wife dies. Hari kolam mincha zetiachel, that you're still allowed to eat it. Shalas safek. Basa mitzchila. Since the whole reason you brought the carbon in the first place was a suffix that we were not sure that why, because it's brought before she drinks the water. So too you can drink it, eat it over here. Kipra sveika v'lechesba. However, kipra, because the bringing of this kemitza gives the kapara, and then sveika, it gives the kapara for her suffix. Well, chazan, it's gone, and therefore everything is good before the husband or wife dies. The price says a 4th case Says the Brisa Bala Eidim Shitameya, and these are all cases of the carbon mincha within the world of Sotah. If Eidim came that she is Tameh, what's the halacha mincha nisrefes? Now you have to burn the mincha. Nimsu Eidim Zaymimin, case number 5, says Rav Papa, and this is going to be the Shaila that's going to come back on Rav Papa. Says the Brisa, if the Eidim, those that came and said that she was mitame, that she was nistera, that she was secluded, if though Eidim are found to be Eidim Zaymin, that he could not have been there because they were with different Eidim elsewhere, then minchasa chulin, then the mincha becomes non-holy, comes chol. So ask the Gemara, what do we see? It says minchasa chaylin, but according to you, Rav Papa, in this case there should be a gzeira dirabbanan, and they have to burn the carbon mincha. And this we conclude answers Gemara Eidim Zaymim kamrit. Eidim Zaymim kala islu. There's always a call when there's Eidim Zaymim. There is no reason to create the gzeira dirabbanan that you have to burn this carbon mincha. And those are all the kashas on Rav Sheshes. And tomorrow we're going to bring a raya to Rav Sheshes.